What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Rotoworld Basketball Show. I'm Dan Titus with a hoarse voice because, Bird Gang got that Super Bowl. But joined with Raphielle Johnson and Noah Rubin. We're in the Week 16. Obviously, we're heading into the All-Star break, so we got a fun show prepared for you today. Going to go through the major headlines. Then we're going to touch on some of our fantasy All-Stars this year. And then we're going to have a little fun, silly season draft where we're going to pick all the players that we would try to roster around silly season. But to kick things off today, Kevin Durant made history last night, 8th player in NBA history to amass 30,000 points. I mean, for how bad the Suns look right now, it was great to see Kevin Durant reach that milestone. Very hard to do. I think he made it in as many games as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But I think there was one subplot to this that fantasy managers need to take notice of. So, Raph, what are your thoughts on Bol Bol and what we've seen over the last few games?
It's been outstanding. He's been in the rotation last 3 games, started last night. It was 18-14, and then he had 6 defensive contributions with the 2 steals and 4 blocks. His ability to do that gives Phoenix, the leeway to kind of go smaller at the 5. Between he and Kevin Durant, you have an immense amount of length on the floor. Nick Richards hasn't really panned out the way that we thought he would since coming over from Charlotte. He had a couple good games, but overall hasn't been great. You kind of know what you're going to get with Mason Plumlee at this point. So you're kind of looking to steal a few minutes with those guys. And to have Bol Bol emerge, even though they lost last night, I think that's an important development for Phoenix. And I know they're talking, Mike Budenholzer said before the game, they're going to have to try to figure out a way to get him minutes once they're whole. There is no try anymore. Like, he has to be in the rotation because of what he brings to the table, especially defensively.
Yeah, I think the fact that he moved into the starting lineup for their last game was pretty telling as far as what this could actually look like. We've seen him have some incredible stretches in fantasy before with Orlando, and then 1 or 2 games last year as well. I'm not confident that this is just going to be like it finally has clicked for Bol Bol, and now all of a sudden he's going to be a long-term fantasy star. But I think as long as he's playing big minutes, he needs to be rostered. We know the blocks are probably going to be the main thing that helps us out. And even if it's not, great for the Suns, like they've lost 2 of the 3 games since he kind of entered the rotation, I don't think that this means that Tim Hardaway Sr. was right about Bol Bol being better than Victor Wembanyama, but he's definitely a guy that should be rostered at this point in pretty much every fantasy league.
Yeah, I think it's the lack of competition in the front court now. Yusuf Nurkic is gone. They don't really have an answer. So I think they have no choice but to experiment with Bol Bol, and it's going well. Outside of the losses, I think that's more of an indictment on Bradley Beal not being available and just going through some other issues. Whether that was Ramona Shelburne and the drama that she was stirring, but it's just not a good look for the Suns right now. Similarly, the Mavs are going through it. Anthony Davis looked great in his debut for a certain time, and then he left with that abdominal injury. Report came out today that he's going to not need surgery. He's going to rest, do some rehab, but he's still going to miss a significant amount of time. Noah, what does that mean from a fantasy perspective? Do you expect Najee Marshall to step up? Because they're also dealing with Daniel Gafford's injury that's going to cost him for 2 weeks, and Derek Lively's still out for the season.
Yeah, it couldn't really be going much worse in Dallas right now, just between all the injuries on top of the Luka trade already kind of demoralizing the fan base. Some of the other, things that happened during their last home game where they were having to remove fans from the stands. Obviously, just not a great look overall for the entire team. From a fantasy standpoint, I think Najee Marshall is definitely a name to look at. Don't know if he's going to start. We've seen him start this year and be very productive. So definitely a pretty safe name to look at. I think more of the long shot name to take a look at is Olivier Maxence Prosper, who's in his second season, played 34 minutes in their last game, 16 points, 4 rebounds, an assist, and a steal. Probably not a high, maybe a high upside guy that is also a pretty low floor guy for what this could be, but I think he'll definitely get an opportunity.
Yeah, I think those are 2 good names. Another one I'd throw in is Max Christie. He's given them good minutes off the bench since arriving in that same trade as Davis. And he may not be a front court player per se, but the need for offense is going to keep him in that rotation. He's going to get good minutes. So I think he's someone else to really consider if you can't get Najee Marshall. I think I'd go Christie ahead of Omax at this point in terms of pickups right now.
And on the flip side, I mean, obviously the Lakers seem to be doing just fine. Luka Doncic had his debut, looked a little rusty, shot 1 for 7 from 3, but I think everybody could see how dangerous this Lakers team could be with. If you don't have LeBron on the floor, guess what? You get Luka. If Luka's not there, you got LeBron and or Austin Reaves. And one of my fallers that I initially pegged was Austin Reaves, just because we thought we'd see that decline in his scoring. But Raph, are you surprised at like how much this guy has taken over offensively? And could he actually preserve his value? Because now there's so much gravity being brought to Luka and LeBron, he might actually be able to thrive as that third option.
Yeah, I think I overlooked that, kind of expecting things to decrease for Reaves, because now part of that starting lineup, he's basically got a straight line drive to do whatever he wants, because you have to account for Luka and LeBron. So that maybe the assist could potentially take a hit, but even so, the scoring's probably going to be there. The percentages may improve even just because of the space he's going to have. So yeah, I don't know if surprise is right. I was just wrong. So yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, looking at the Jaxson Hayes side of it, with that Mark Williams trade now rescinded, Noah, I mean, Jaxson Hayes has the perfect opportunity to become a Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively light with Luka Doncic and LeBron James. I mean, those first two, I won't say it was the first two possessions of the game, he got the easiest lobs he's ever had a big smile on his face, like, oh my God, thank you. So this is a guy you're holding in fantasy now? And is there anybody else you're expecting to take a boost or get a boost in minutes because of that Mark Williams trade now not going through?
I think kind of by necessity, if Jaxson Hayes is available, you kind of have to pick him up. I don't feel great about it just because he's not a great fantasy player, but he's going to be on the floor. He's going to catch lobs, probably going to get rebounds just because he's the biggest guy on the team and shoot high percentage, get some blocks. He's an athlete, but don't feel great about it. I think, they signed Alex Len yesterday to be kind of the backup center. And immediately when Raph and I were doing the Q&A, it was like, if that happens, how does that impact Jaxson Hayes? And I think if you get impacted by Alex Len joining the team in the year 2025, then like we can't feel super confident about you as a fantasy option. So at this point, yes, I think Jaxson Hayes is a must roster guy, but we'll see how the rotation plays out and see if Alex Len actually impacts things.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I agree with what he said. I was just going to move on to Rui Hachimura because I think he's someone else. We talked about it on Friday. We thought he'd probably going to move out of the starting lineup for Dorian Finney-Smith for defensive reasons. That didn't happen. JJ Redick said before the game it's not going to happen anytime soon. So I think if you have Rui, you kind of wait this thing out because he played pretty well on Monday. So he's another guy who maybe the ball isn't in his hands as much, but he can be a finisher within that lineup with Luka and LeBron. And that may benefit him in some areas in terms of the scoring.
Yeah, I took an L on that one too. I had Rui as a loser as a part of that, thinking that Dorian Finney-Smith was going to emerge. But now Dorian Finney-Smith is dealing with an ankle injury. We'll see what his prognosis is on Wednesday. But Rui is definitely looking like a guy that's on the rise as well. A team that's not on the rise. I hate talking about Philly, given that we're Super Bowl champs.
Give us a go Birds real quick. Just give us a go Birds. You deserve it.
Go Birds. Got to. But yeah, I can't go Sixers because last night they lost to the Toronto Raptors in dramatic fashion. Embiid had a chance to ice the game with a three-pointer, at least attempt it. He pump faked, dribbled, lost the ball, game over. Yeah, it's bad. But even bigger part of that was Embiid came out on Sunday and said that he's probably going to need surgery on his knee and he's probably going to be missing an extended period of time whenever that happens. My question is, guys, like, you guys, whoever you guys want to answer first, but like, should the Sixers just mail it in at this point? I mean, right now they're in 11th place. Paul George looks like he's just not even interested in playing basketball. Tyrese Maxey is the only one really giving him consistent minutes out of that big three. If Embiid needs surgery, why not just get it now and then mail the rest of the season in, and then you can possibly still keep your pick in 2025.
I think the other part is that Maxey appeared to tweak something early in that game last night. Then he only, 5 points. It was in a performance that we haven't seen from him this season, to be fair. So that's another factor in this. But I thought that Philadelphia paid too much money for those three guys to pull the plug, but it's just, I don't know. I don't know if you're doing your fan base a favor by pulling the plug, but we're kind of approaching that point because Embiid doesn't look himself. Passing up that shot was probably like, I don't know, man. It maybe some people probably say it might be poetic justice given how things ended with Ben Simmons, but I'm not buying that. But it's like between him, Paul George, who knows what he wants to do in terms of playing back to backs. They've got another game tonight. It looks like he's available at this point, but who really knows what's going to go on there? But between them and then what happened to Chicago, it's like maybe we should take the 11th place team in the West and just put them in a 10 spot in the East and just be done with it, because I don't think either of those teams really wants to be the 10th seed in the East.
Yeah, they're kind of having a mid-off right now. I don't think either team, like they both kind of know that it's going to go their way. They might as well miss the playoffs and have better lottery odds, especially with this draft class. So it does make sense, I think, for the Sixers to do that. But I think it's probably something they could have addressed more at the trade deadline. And when they kind of didn't, it was like, okay, like they kind of have to go all in now. They have aging stars on expensive contracts. They have to, at this point, try and play this thing out. Maybe they are able to have the stars align. They can be a little healthy during the play-in tournament, win some win or go home games, sneak into a series. But even then, I don't feel very optimistic about that. And Embiid needing another surgery is just so concerning, just with the amount of knee issues that he's already had just throughout his entire career. I did have a question for y'all based on that. Where do you guys think he goes in drafts next year? Because I think he was going to be a top 2, top 3 pick this year, but then the knees were obviously such an issue that people were like, okay, fine, late first round, maybe he slips to the early second round, but by the time we were doing drafts, it was still early or late first round. Does he go in the first 3 rounds next year?
I'm thinking round 3 at the highest, because we need to see if and when he gets that surgery. Because if he gets it, if they play out the season, then he gets it. You're talking about a guy he's probably not going to be available for the start of the year. So I think end of the third probably be the earliest that I would think of taking him.
I think he's outside round 3. He's probably in round 5, round 6. He's going to be in that Kawhi territory that he saw this year.
That's a good
I think
comparison.
it's going to become a point where he's essentially Kawhi Leonard. He can only play basketball for 6 months out of the year. He's probably not going to come back until midway next season. So at that point, it's not worth the risk. Especially if you're dealing with it now. If you have him rostered, I have him on one team. I got him in the 3rd round. I was like, okay, that's good value, but it's super frustrating because you don't know when he's going to play. If that knee keeps swelling up, who knows if another surgery can fix it? I doubt it at this point because he's had so many issues, lower body, extremities. He just it just sucks, man. He just can't stay healthy. His body is failing him. He's 31 years old. It's not going to get any better for him. So, yeah, I would be cautious on drafting Embiid next year based off what we know now. On the brighter things, Jimmy Butler looks great with the Golden State Warriors. I mean, there were some questions around how Jimmy would fit with, a 3-point centric offense. And obviously the locker room of him and Draymond Green would probably be one of the more spirited ones in the league, but they look locked in. And I think the one cool thing that Steve Kerr keeps on acknowledging is that Jimmy Butler just gives them this comfort. Like whenever they need to get a bucket, he can just go to the rim. He's shooting 23 for 28 in his last 2 games at the free throw line, just getting to the line at will. Noah, what do you think this does for his fantasy value? Like he was milling in that 50s range for much of the season because he was disgruntled. He wasn't really feeling being in Miami. Is this trade like something that's going to preserve and save his fantasy value? And on the flip side, what is it going to do with Wiggins and Nikola Jovic? How's that Miami situation going to kind of play out in your mind?
Yeah, first in Golden State, I think Jimmy Butler made it pretty clear that he wanted to get paid, and he has gotten paid. And so we've already seen he's had at least 20 points in his first 2 games with the Warriors. Last time he scored 20 in a game was middle of December. So it's been almost 2 months, and he's immediately able to go out there and do that. 2 road games. So that was great to see. But I think also we've seen Steph play really well. So I think both of those guys are playing better than they were when they were separate. But just adding Jimmy Butler onto this team just gives them a dynamic that they really haven't had since Kevin Durant left. And that's just another true all-star caliber player all-star caliber creator next to Steph. I mean, the line that has literally been written about the Warriors for like the past 5 years is that Draymond Green keeps writing checks that Steph has to cash. But now it's like Jimmy Butler's kind of there to help out, just take off some of the responsibility off Steph's shoulders. And it's making it life easier for both of them. On the Miami side of things, I think Andrew Wiggins being there, like immediately sliding into the starting lineup and just being another guy that has to take up minutes, because when Jimmy Butler was there, he wasn't playing. So now it's another guy in the rotation that's starting. It definitely hurts Nikola Jovic a little bit. He's still playing a large role, so I'm not totally out on him yet, but he definitely doesn't have that same upside that he had when Jimmy Butler was, or when the whole Jimmy Butler saga, I think is the best way to put it, was happening in Miami.
Yeah, I think it's a good point there. Jimmy Butler, he's been the change agent that it sounded like they thought Dennis Schroeder would be when they acquired him, which is almost funny when you think about it now, comparing Schroeder to Jimmy Butler. But, it is what it is. But I think his ability to get to the line and apply pressure to defenses that way kind of opens things up for everyone. Steph, he started off a 30-point streak before Jimmy Butler joined the team, but his shots just look a lot easier now than they did before. So I think that's going to be huge for him. I think what I'm watching is how the rest of that wing rotation plays out. Buddy Hield, good catch and shoot guy. Maybe we'll see an uptick in three-pointers there. But Brandon Podziemski, I think he's probably going to take a hit. Moses Moody has given him solid minutes, but I don't think it's been anything to really impact his fantasy value. And I'm not really rushing to pick up Quentin Post, but he's in the rotation, so I guess we kind of have to watch him for a bit. As for Miami, I think I'm with Noah. I think I'm holding out on Jovic for now, and I see how things play out. He's still playing quality minutes. If anything, Jaime Jaquez probably takes more of a hit than anyone in terms of the fantasy value. And Haywood Highsmith, he was a DNP CD the other night, if you're holding on to him. So it's probably time to let him go.
Yeah, it might be it might be tough to hold some of the Miami players now anyway, because there's a stomach bug going through. They're going to have very limited options tonight. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I'm in the category of holding Jovic, and I think you could probably stream Buddy Hield and Brandon Podziemski for the moment. But I think as things start to firm up, I think we'll kind of see one of those two probably emerge as like the main cog for, supporting that new Butler iteration of what this team looks like. But it's been good for all of the Warriors role players getting Jimmy Butler there. So that's a good thing if you have Warriors players rostered. Also, let's talk about De'Aaron Fox and what his impact on the Spurs. I mean, at some point, Raph, they're going to have to insert Stephon Castle into the starting lineup here, right? Like, I think the time is now. Like, Chris Paul's playing well, but I think it just gives them a whole nother dynamic when they have someone like Stephon Castle in the lineup. But 30 points for De'Aaron Fox last night or a night ago. And then also Victor Wembanyama had a ridiculous 31 points, 15 rebounds, 5 threes, all the stocks you can imagine. I mean, I think we're starting to see what this dynamic duo can really be. So from a fantasy perspective, what are you thinking about San Antonio and kind of how that's working out?
I think it's worked out pretty well this far. You have 2 point guards on the floor. They not the best from a size standpoint or defensively, but they've been able to do a good job. Like, obviously Monday's game was against the Wizards, who'd been playing better basketball, but it's still Washington. So you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt for some of those guys. But I guess you can, reason with moving Castle into the starting lineup eventually. Shot the ball well against Washington, 7 for 9 from the field, but I don't know. That's probably going to be a really tough conversation for Mitch Johnson to have with Chris Paul. Just kind of say, we're thankful for having you here and all that, but we may need to move you out of the starting lineup. I'm sure he'll take it like a pro, but I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. I think it might be a case where they play it out and then we get to the off season and then Castle moves into the starting lineup. So I don't really know if it's going to happen right now, even if we may think it probably should.
It's definitely been surprising that both Castle and Chris Paul have been able to kind of maintain a level of production with De'Aaron Fox kind of mixed in. The other player, I think it's kind of in this dynamic of who should start, who should come off the bench, is Devin Vassell. He didn't play very well in their last game, but had been playing pretty well since De'Aaron Fox got there. And I'm a huge Vassell fan, but does it make more sense to have him as like a sixth man scorer, as like a microwave scorer, because we know he can create his own shot rather than, and kind of move Castle back into the starting lineup, or does it make more sense to move Chris Paul into a reserve role? I'm not sure exactly yet, but it's been a very good fit so far, having De'Aaron Fox as kind of their closer. Because their first 3 games with him, it was all 1-point games, and he was either able to make a big shot or make a big shot, and the other team made a big shot, or then he had the one that was waved off because he didn't get off in time. So it's clear that the reigning comeback or clutch player of the year was able to kind of make that impact immediately. I'm excited to see how things look for San Antonio. They definitely probably need to make some sort of decision, whether maybe they do just leave Castle in a reserve role for the rest of the season. I think even if he is coming off the bench, he should be considered the favorite for Rookie of the Year right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that. Yeah.
Is there someone else? If there's someone else,
I still go Jalen Wells.
Jalen Wells looks good too. I think it's still up for debate. If Castle can move into the starting lineup, I think we could probably make a bigger push for it. Speaking of which, you talked about De'Aaron Fox being clutch. So is DeMar DeRozan. He dropped 42 in an OT thriller. But kind of want to get your perspective, Noah, on how Zach LaVine's kind of fitting in Sacramento. Obviously, the scoring drop isn't a surprise considering how much usage is going around to other players. But is there something? Do you see any glimmer of hope for people that may be rostering him that he may be able to provide more than what he's providing, or do you expect him to be more of like an 18-4-4 guy, which is pretty much what he's been since coming to the Sacramento Kings?
I think he can be better than that. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time for them to figure this whole thing out, and maybe the All-Star break allows them that time to do that because they have a number of talented players in that starting lineup, and they're probably deeper than they were earlier in the season. Adding Valanciunas and LaRavia off the bench, I think they actually have like a pretty solid rotation now. I felt like depth was always an issue for them, but it's almost like a redundant skill set at times between Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Malik Monk as shot creators. I think Monk has been better as a playmaker. And if he can kind of commit to that, being him and Sabonis more of playmakers, then things just open up for LaVine and DeMar, who we saw score 42 points in their last game. So I'm not totally out on LaVine yet, but I definitely think he's not going to be able to match the production that he had in Chicago.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like I said, a lot of guys with similar skill sets on the same lineup. So someone's going to take a hit. Thus far, it's been him. What I have been pleasantly surprised by is Keegan Murray kind of maintaining top 100 value over the last week, mainly because of the rebounding and defensive stats, because that's where he's going to have to get his. The offense really isn't going to be there with the guys who need their shots. So I think that's been a pleasant surprise. I'm still kind of watching him to see what happens long term, but that's been a good positive. That's been a positive for the Kings and fantasy managers thus far.
Yeah, I just have this feeling that as good as DeMar DeRozan's been, like these guys are going to continue to trade off on who has big nights. So I might use this as an opportunity to sell high on DeMar DeRozan because I could see LaVine going off just the same. Malik Monk could. So something to just consider. But let's go from the hardwood to the pitch. The Premier League returns this weekend as Everton attempts to win its 4th straight match when they face Crystal Palace. Coverage begins at 12:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Let's get to some All-Star fantasy selections here. But first, Raph, want to get your viewpoint on what event you're looking forward to most at All-Star Weekend this week.
I'm going to say the games themselves, just because of the new format. I'd like to see how it all works, especially the matchup between Team Shaq and Team Candace. Candace will be coaching the winners of the Rising Stars Challenge. So I want to see how that Team Shaq team kind of approaches it from a competitive standpoint, because that's been the big issue with the All-Star game in recent years, guys not really competing to the highest level. Maybe the threat of embarrassment at the hands of guys who, for the most part, haven't established themselves in the league or may not even be in the league, that may motivate them a bit in that second game. So I'm saying I'm looking forward to watching the games on Sunday night.
Yeah, I was going to say the game as well, which I felt like is almost like a surprising thing.
Yeah.
Considering how it's looked over the past however many years, is like the game is arguably the least exciting part of it. But I'm interested to see if the new format makes everybody take it seriously. I don't think it was the NBA's intention for it to be Team International versus Team Rising Stars versus Team young stars versus team old guys. But I'm glad that it's working out that way. And we'll see if maybe, like Raph kind of said, like maybe the more veteran stars take a little pride in, hey, we should be winning this game or we should be beating these guys. Like, let's actually take this thing serious. I'm all for switching it up every year until they find something that actually makes them care a little bit about the game, because it's pretty clear based on the last handful of years that, like, why would anybody care?
Yeah, I kind of put my tinfoil hat on here. It seems pretty convenient that they have the OG, the young stars, the old heads, and then the international guys, like probably to have some competitive juices flowing for that. I think the international team looks sick, man. Like, I'm actually kind of excited to see those guys play together. Team old heads not looking good with AD and Giannis already. Oh yeah, actually Giannis is on team Chuck here. Yeah, the OGs look a little rough, man. Like, Harden can't go hard. Durant, I don't know. This is going to be interesting, but I just hope they find something. I hope they can eventually go to the traditional All-Star game. People have pride in just playing East versus West. I don't care how you collect them up, but like, just find the best players and let them actually play. But they got enough stuff going on here. We'll see how the dunk contest goes. 3-point shootout's probably going to be more entertaining. It generally has been over the last several years. So let's get to the fantasy all-stars, though. So our framework.
Wait a minute.
Oh, snap. Raph.
Sorry about that. Looking at the schedule, the championship game for the All-Star game won't start until 10 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
That sucks.
That's rough.
Man.
That's not what they're doing.
The first one starts at
have
8:20, I think.
You have, let's see.
That's doing
They
too
got
much.
it up here.
9:10.
Yeah. Okay. So 8:20 for the first game to 9:10. I was hoping they'd shift them up a little earlier.
No one watches the Pro Bowl. No one's going to watch the next iteration of this thing you're still trying to figure out at 10 p.m. at night. What are you doing?
Not just.
You got to make the game accessible. So I guess that would be my negative for Sunday then. Now realizing what the schedule is.
Great point, Raph. Great point. All right, let's get to our fantasy all-star selection. So rather than just rattling off the top 24 in our rankings, we wanted to make it interesting. So we only picked 3 people each that were ranked in the top 24, and then the other 5 are outside of that threshold. So what's the best way to go about this? I guess, Noah, I'll start with you. Who are the first 8 of your, I guess, name your starting 5, and then who did you have as reserves for?
Wait, I thought this was a draft. This isn't a draft?
Yeah, are we drafting too?
Draft. Yeah, we're drafting.
I thought it was a draft.
All right, we're drafting both of them. All right, 2 drafts today. All right.
Yeah, the more the drafts, the merrier.
All right, so round 1. Noah, I guess you can get first pick then.
Cool. I will. Surprisingly, I'll take Nikola Jokic, who's been by far the best player in fantasy basketball. Not a surprising pick. I won't expand too much.
All right. I'm going to go SGA. I think besides Jovic and Wemby, he's been right there as the best. So, yeah, SGA for sure.
I'll go Josh Hart for my guard. Dude's a beast. He's on one of the best. He's like 3rd on the highest ranked public teams in Yahoo, and he's been outstanding all year long, all facets of the game. So yeah, Josh Hart for me.
So that's what's one of your 3 top 24 guys?
He is.
Okay.
He is.
Well, we'll snake this draft back around. You can pick twice in a row.
All right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Dyson Daniels. Take your guy there.
Okay.
I'm just gonna take Wemby. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Not really too much to think about with that one. I don't think.
Are we doing positions? We're just going down the list of top 20.
I mean, you left the 3rd player on the board.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised you left Wemby out there.
Yeah.
But Wemby's, you already picked Jokic. Like, we're just going to go down literally the top 12
Jokic.
players in fantasy? Like, what challenge is that? We know.
I thought we were going to kind of clear out like the first round early, or you can do whatever you want, but that was kind of the point. But
yeah, man,
I guess I'm going rogue here.
Yeah, I'm not
please
leaving
take them.
Wemby on the board. Like, that's crazy.
I had no idea we were doing a draft here.
No, Dan's
Right.
punting points, so that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that works pretty well.
My steals are on lock though.
All right. Well, let's see. I got two more guys that I can take from the top 24. Let's see. I've got Jokic. I'm going to go ahead and take Karl Anthony Towns, who I think has been really surprising how good he has been, being ranked 5th on Basketball Monster in 9-cat leagues. And I couldn't let Raph get a New York Knick. I think that's kind of me and Dan's secret plot now, is that we can't let Raph get any of his guys. Even though maybe Dan's trying to let neither of us get our guys because he took Dyson Daniels from me, but
Yeah.
I'll make sure I get somebody else. And then I'll take, man, I don't want to just now Dan's making me feel bad. I feel like I can't take just guys ranked in the top 5 because Dan was like trying to get his other top 24 guys. So maybe I need to take someone else. I'll do that. I'll play by Dan's rules. I'll get Evan Mobley and just get another big
There we
because
go.
some of these big men
Let's get some,
are pretty
get some
fun.
diversity up in here.
I think he deserves it. I think he maybe not technically like this high ranked of a player, but definitely a guy that's been instrumental in Cleveland being as good as they are, and he's been a 2nd-round value in 9-cat leagues.
I'm going to go outside the top 24 for my next pick, and we'll take Jaren Jackson Jr. So basically dominate the blocks category here between he and Wemby. And then we got SGA. So 3-pointers, that'll probably be the category that, not really too concerned about, but I think I'm off to a pretty good start with my team.
I'm not, so I might as well just continue down this road. I'm going to go with Nikola Vucevic. Outstanding value this year. Might get weird during silly season, but I mean, he's the top 5 roster player on the best teams in Yahoo. Been extremely valuable. 20 and 10, 19 and 10, gives you the assists, gives you 3-pointers, does everything you want in fantasy. So I'm gonna go Vucevic. And on the turn, I'll go Jason Tatum just for consistency. Dude just plays every game. Still a top 10 player in fantasy. 9-cat points leagues. Totals value. Just covers the whole board there. So I'll go Jason Tatum.
Good pick there. I'm going to go the versatility route with another outside of top 24 pick. Going with J-Dub, Jalen Williams. Yahoo leagues, he's eligible for 4 different positions. Shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center, and he's been outstanding this year for the most part. So I'm going to take him with my 4th pick.
Yeah, now I feel like I should have been more strategic and just taken my guys outside the top 24 first. I think Raph, you just caught on to that, and I was like, dang, it's actually probably really smart because now it's all these guys that Dan and I can't draft. And you got, okay, I'm going to take the other Jalen. That way I can get an Atlanta Hawk on my team and get Jalen Johnson, who's out for the year at this point, but has been was one of the best players in fantasy basketball before he got hurt. Just a breakout star. He's going to be very good in fantasy for a very long time. Let's see. I will take Cade Cunningham for my next pick, who I think is, let's see where he's ranked right now. He's 36th on 36,
so you're good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now I got a couple of my 2021 draft class guys now. So I'm keeping them all together. Yeah, Cade, first-time All-Star in real life for a reason. I think actually both him and Evan Mobley are first-time All-Stars this year. Both well-deserving players.
Like that. I'm going with LeBron here. I know he's 40, but he's looked anything but 40 years old in terms of the production. So I think I'm going to take him with my next pick here.
I'm going to go with Damian Lillard. He's been quietly doing his thing, man. 26, 8 assists. Giannis is hurt, so his numbers are going to be probably even better after the All-Star break. Top 8 player in 9-cat leagues. He's up there in totals value too. So, yeah, I think that's my 3rd guy in the top 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
You got one more too.
Oh, back to back. Ooh, I know the news just came out that no, I can't go that way. All right, I'm gonna go with my most rostered player that's been giving me a lot of success this year, James Harden. He just continues to do it. I know if you're punting field goals and you want assists, like James Harden's perfect for that. That was my build and my strategy for a lot of leagues, and it's paying dividends. So yeah, I'll go with James Harden.
I'll use my third top 24 spot on Tyrese Maxey. Banged up last night, but he's been like, just imagine what Philadelphia would be without Tyrese Maxey. And then you get into the fantasy value. He's been a high level guy, first round value in 9-cat. So yeah, Tyrese Maxey would be my next pick.
All right, I'm gonna keep my Hawks guys together and get Trae Young, him and Jalen Johnson. And I know I didn't get that, I'm so mad at Dan about that, but I can get Trae, who has been not great as a scorer in comparison to basically every other season of his career, but leading the league in assists and assists per game. Some of the assist totals are great. And I just went ahead and said I'm never going to win turnovers ever because Trae Young will not allow for that to happen. I will go for my seventh one. I'm going to go Amen Thompson, who kind of came along slowly. There we go.
Should have dropped
I love
him
hearing
earlier.
that. I love hearing that when I draft. Like people getting mad at, because that means I actually made a good pick, and that was So, but I mean, everybody knows what he's done since he entered the starting lineup. Jabari Smith isn't far from a return. They're saying that, I think Ime Udoka said that once he gets cleared for contact, he'll be able to play pretty shortly after. And then that could happen during the All-Star break. So we'll see what they do with that lineup, because Udoka said it's not decided yet, but it's hard to imagine Amen Thompson's going to go back to the bench.
That's really
been decided. You're tripping. That
was
decided.
Real quote.
The coach may have not decided it, but sometimes guys above him say, "No, you're going to start this guy."
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
But my seventh pick, I'm going to go with another surprise this year. I'm going to take Norman Powell. I think he kind of thought he could
ruining my bench.
He thought he could be in for a boost in production with the Paul George exit, but he's been even better than that. And he's maintained his value once Kawhi Leonard returned. So his addition by subtraction comment is actually accurate.
Yeah.
Trying to see who I have on my team here. All right. So I got Daniels, Hart, Vooch, Lillard, Tatum, and
Harden.
I was going to go another guard here, but let me not. Oof. Well, Oh, Jalen Brunson.
See, Raph, I told you he had this hidden agenda. He didn't want you to get any New York guys.
Yeah, I'm going to go Jalen. De'Aaron Fox is slightly better, though.
You have 2 picks in a row, Dan, if that helps.
It's true. All right, yeah, I'm gonna go. Let's go Jalen Brunson, because we know how good Jalen Brunson is, and close it out with the sleeper, man. Derek White just continues to just do his thing. Needs some blocks from the guard position. Dude's solid. Gives me the threes. I round it out on Derek White.
I'll take De'Aaron Fox. I think he's been good all year, and he's looked pretty good in San Antonio this far. So, yeah, I'll definitely take him with my last pick.
All right. I've got a couple guys left on my board. Just want to throw Giannis's name out there, even though none of us took him, and he's absolutely ranked outside, the top 50 or whatever. So we could, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to have fun. And I'm going to take Tyler Hero, who has been very good for Miami. So that was a fun pick. First time All-Star in real life. First time All-Star in our
great pool.
First All-Star draft. Definitely a guy that deserves this. Kind of carried Miami. I mean, he didn't play in their last game, and they scored 85 points, season low. So they need him to score.
For sure. And all right, let's see. I also had who else was remain on your board? I had Jared Allen out there, who's also been solid. Could have went Darius Garland, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Scotty Barnes is kind of lower than I expected, but him and LaMelo definitely had their moments too.
I I had Alperen Şengün as another guy. Austin Reaves, mostly just because of what he's done recently. Isaiah Hartenstein, who has been very good and important for the Thunder. Probably would have fit well with your build, Dan, with your points build that you started off with Josh Hart and Dyson Daniels. And then Brandon Miller, who's been out for a while now, but was really, really good earlier in the season. Thought about including him. I think had he played more, probably would have been included.
No one drafted Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, that was one, but I used up my 3.
Okay.
Top 24s on other guys. And Ivica Zubac is someone else. He's been really good for the Clippers this year. So he's another guy who's kind of left over on my board here.
Yeah, Walker Kessler is ranked really high, but maybe we'll talk about him in silly season. But
yeah,
let's go to
Do you want me to recap the teams real quick?
Oh yeah, let's do that. Did you mark them all down? Cool.
I sure did. So Dan, your team was Josh Hart, Dyson Daniels, Nikola Vucevic, Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard, James Harden, Jalen Brunson, and Derek White. Raph, your team was SGA, Victor Wembanyama, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jalen Williams, LeBron James, Tyrese Maxey, Norman Powell, and De'Aaron Fox. And then I had Nikola Jokic, Karl Anthony Towns, Evan Mobley, Jalen Johnson, Cade Cunningham, Trae Young, Amen Thompson, and Tyler Hero.
Yeah, I got smoked. I'm definitely coming in third in that draft. Yeah, let's go on to watch the biggest names in sports talk, including Mike Florio, Dan Patrick, Dan Lebitard, and Matthew Berry, as they cover the biggest moments on and off the field each weekday on the NBC Sports Now channel. It is now available on Peacock and free on most streaming platforms. Learn more at NBCSports.com/now. Okay, the draft I was actually ready for, the silly season draft, where we're going to go snake draft style, selecting all of the players that we think will be successful in silly season. And there's some teams where silly season's already happening, already occurring. So, Raph, you can go first in this one. Start us off.
I'm going to take a guy who's been a starter all year, and I think he's in a position where he can certainly continue to grow, especially offensively. And I'm going to draft Toumani Camara from Portland. Given what he brings defensively, he's improved offensively. I think the desire to maybe see what more he can do on that end of the floor should keep him relatively safe from a shutdown. So he's going to be my first pick.
I guess we'll continue in the snake profile that we were doing before. So I'll go with Isaiah Collier. I think he's pretty safe right now in terms of his opportunity. Easily looks like the best point guard that the Utah Jazz have. He has 20 and 10 upside. Jordan Clarkson coming back might mess things up a little bit, but that's why we're calling it silly season. So once it gets to the end, I think we'll see a lot of Isaiah Collier. So he's a guy that I'm going to roster in all leagues, and we'll hold on no matter what goes on post All-Star break.
Definitely. He was pretty much at the top of my board, or one of the top names. I think the one that I was pretty excited to draft is Donovan Clingan. Will be my first pick, who we don't know exactly how long DeAndre Ayton's going to be out, but it could be a while. I think he was set to get imaging done yesterday, and that they were going to announce actual results either today or tomorrow. So we'll see. Even if they're not terrible results, I can't imagine that they push Ayton much down the stretch. He'll probably miss back-to-backs, and if it keeps bothering him, they might as well shut him down for the season unless they're able to get on another hot streak. But I imagine that Donovan Clingan is going to play a lot, and we've seen what he can do in limited minutes. Let's see. I'll take another guy who has been starting recently in Modest Buzelis, another rookie.
Ooh, early.
Oh, geez. So Dan hated that pick, but that's okay. Because, I mean, I've liked what I've seen already from him, and I can't imagine that Chicago is like, you know what, guys? Let's actually bench the rookie so that we can make sure we make the play-in tournament. I can't imagine they go that far. Like, they may still try and make the play-in tournament, but it's not going to be at the expense of Modest Buzelis minutes. I love the blocks there, and then upside as a shooter.
No contests.
I think it's back to you, Dan.
That was me. Shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Alex Sarr. Starting all year, but like at some point, now that Giannis
You're muted, Dan.
Muted.
Also, with Kyle Kuzma gone, I think Alex Sarr is going to be a pretty good player down the stretch. Will struggle with his field goal efficiency, but gives you the stocks. Will have some points and also some rebounds. So I think he's going to have a successful last little stretch of the season there.
All right. I'm going to head up to Brooklyn for my next pick, and I'm going to take Keon Johnson. The field goal percentage is a concern, shooting about 38% over the last 2 weeks. But he's also been an 8th-round player during that stretch. So I think he's someone 22% rostered now. The silly season's already well underway in Brooklyn. So I think he's someone you're going to get a consistent 30-plus minutes per night out of him. So he'll be good to have rostered for the rest of the season. And for my other pick, as much as we like to joke about the front court situation in Charlotte, I think Moussa Diabate, I think he's the one guy you can kind of rely on the rest of the season unless he gets hurt, because who knows what that medical staff is up to. But, yeah, I think Diabate is going to be the one to have rostered on that team right now.
I like that.
You're up, Dan.
All right. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Nick Smith Jr. I think LaMelo Ball will eventually be shut down because they have no incentive to win. And they're running out of guards, especially with Dalton Connect not coming over there anymore. Nick Smith's been playing really well over the last 5 games. Starters minutes, averaging 18, 3 and 3. I think that's going to continue the more that Charlotte continues to lose games. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Nick Smith Jr.
I like that one a lot. He's been very good recently. I'm going to go back-to-back picks from the same team, and it's for the reasons that Dan mentioned earlier with Sarr. I'm going to go Bub Carrington and Keyshawn George back-to-back. You guys thought there was a chance that it was somebody else, but no. Bub Carrington, obviously we saw what he did earlier in the season, and I can't imagine that even if Malcolm Brogdon and Marcus Smart are healthy, that Bub will be anything but the priority. And I'm kind of excited to see what he can do during the silly season. That's a lot of times when rookie point guards start to kind of actually figure things out, and they're able to have some really good stretches. And then with Keyshawn George, already had been kind of starting some before Kyle Kuzma got traded, and then he had played very well in the first game after the Kuz got traded. And he's going to be able to hit a lot of threes down the stretch of the season. Kind of, again, I think we talked about this yesterday, Raph, on the Q&A. I'm very excited about what Washington is doing and the way they're building this team. And I think it's just going to take a little bit longer than it did for a team like OKC, where they're stockpiling picks and young guys, because Washington doesn't have an SGA type player. But I'm excited to see what they do with Sarr, Bub, Keyshawn George, and some other players that may or may not be still on my board, so I won't say their names.
I'm going to go with I think that the Dallas Mavericks have a legitimate chance to fall out of the play-in contention. So I'm going to go with Max Christie. I think Christie is a hold for the rest of the season. There's a very good chance that Anthony Davis doesn't come back in the next month or two. They're already 2 games above 500. The Kings are climbing. The Warriors are climbing. I don't know. I could see this going south. So if that happens, Max Christie's going to get some run. I'm going to go with Max Christie.
It's a good pick. Kind of ignored Dallas as a potential tanking option.
Yeah, me too. That's a good one.
Yeah, but that makes sense. I'm going to take a player who I think may be on Noah's board, given what you alluded to a couple minutes ago. I'm going to go with Bilal Coulibaly. He's been a starter all year. I know he's rostered in 55% of Yahoo leagues, so people clearly knew about him already. But these next weeks are a chance for him to kind of show what he can potentially do offensively. And there's no reason for Washington to not experiment with that, given where they are in the standings. So he'll be my first pick. And the second pick will be – ooh, that's not a good roster. We'll go back to Portland. Scoot Henderson. He's someone else that, he's played really well recently. And he was one of the reasons why they went on that 10-1 run over an 11-game stretch that likely influenced the front office's decision to not trade anybody at the deadline, even though a lot of us thought they still should have made some moves. But I think Scoot's going to be pretty safe in terms of his minutes and role, even if they let Anthony Simons play through the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm thinking on this one, I'm going to go. I'm going to go Quentin Grimes. I think the Sixers are going to end up having to tank. And his minutes look great over the last 3 games since joining the Sixers, 30, 28, 31, 36. I think there's a very good chance that the Sixers go left. And Quentin Grimes is a young player, 25 years old. Really good opportunity for him to emerge as probably their 2 guard of the future. So I'm going to go with Quentin Grimes.
Yeah, I like that. I think he was a really good pickup for them at the deadline, and the move that they were able to get him for was good as well.
Oh, it's the Nico discounts. They were going fast. Had to capitalize.
Oh man. For our producer Adam, I do have 2 more Washington Wizards players on my board. I'm not going to take either of them just so I don't load up with too many Wizards. But I think that just speaks to, again, what I said. I do really like what they're doing, and I hope it ends up actually resulting in them having a very good team here in a few years. But the last guy that I'm going to take is Brandon Boston Jr., who just got converted to a standard contract from a 2-way deal. Herb Jones is likely done for the season. Brandon Ingram got traded, so like there is no chance of him really getting totally pushed out of the rotation down the stretch. I think he's dealing with an injury right now, but I think as the season progresses, we'll start seeing CJ McCollum and Zion and Trey Murphy available less and less, and we'll see more and more Brandon Boston minutes. We saw what he did earlier in the year when everybody was hurt, and yeah, I think he's going to be able to do that more of that down the stretch.
Yeah, Herb is out for the season. I think that was announced yesterday. So hope he can get that shoulder right. We'll see him next year. But yeah, it definitely sucks for fantasy purposes. But good for Brandon Boston Jr. Definitely a good opportunity for him.
Mm-hmm.
That will conclude it. So Noah, can you recap our selections?
Yeah. So Raph went Toumani Camara, Keon Johnson, Moussa Diabate, Bilal Coulibaly, and Scoot Henderson. Dan went Isaiah Collier, Alex Sarr, Nick Smith Jr., Max Christie, and Quentin Grimes. And then I went Donovan Clingan, Modest Buzelis, Bub Carrington, Keyshawn George, and Brandon Boston Jr.
Man, our field goal percentages are just ugly.
I mean,
you can't worry about those.
That's that rookie life.
That's what you expect. You know, these teams are down at the bottom for a reason, and that usually has a lot to do with it. So.
Yep. So that'll do it for the Rotoworld basketball show. We're in week 16. We'll be back next week, week 16, part 2, recapping what happened in All-Star weekend, and then also looking ahead to week 17. Just make sure you guys know trade deadline is approaching very fast in fantasy basketball. So make sure you get those offers in. I believe it's week 18 is the trade deadline. So for Noah Rubin, Raphielle Johnson, and Dan Titus, we'll see you next time. Enjoy the All-Star game. Peace.